Good evening, Nigeria. Welcome to Updated Pressures. Always a pleasure to bring on a matter them where they share for inside Nigeria. Another beautiful day to talk about things that happen for our country and to speak for the growth and development of our nation. We'll make a begin giving at the high headlines them one by one. But say today Torino will complete if we talk about Madam Natasha at Portugal, where it be said the Senate earlier today being unsealed her office wey be say they don't seal since sake of the suspension wey be say they give her today they unseal am, and then eventually from the Federal High Court where be say she been go, she come from there again, come her office, come finally gain access to her office, and then she said a lot of things after which she gained access to her office, and part of those things we should talk now. Waiting be say we will begin talk about today. That's not the only thing we'll talk about. We'll also look at the case we get to do with Oga Wike, the Minister of the FCT, former governor of River State. Remember, we discussed this matter yesterday. Say according to as Wike they do, we don't hear from the first set of people. We hear from a lawyer yesterday when he gave us a perspective or him own perspective or opinion about the possible extradition of Oga Wike based on waiting Sowore talk. Say plans they underway to arrest Oga Wike, then extradite him to Nigeria, to abroad, US, to go face money laundering charges. So we'll go look at the possibility again based on another legal expert's perspective. Make we hear so that we'll feel balance our opinion on that conversation because it is very, very important. Make we look into that matter. But at the meantime, make I begin rush you onto the hot topics and what we get today. Natasha finally returns to Senate after reopening of National Assembly office. And then Natasha in court accuses government of double standards in prosecuting Akpabio's defamation allegation against her. In fact, government on the other side said, what is going on? Natasha, you said you also get double standard. Defamation suits, Nigerian government alleges plot to scuttle Natasha's trial. Akpabio not more a senator than I am. That's why Natasha can't talk. Then we'll move on to other issues. Now, the United Nations General Assembly, where they hold for US right now. Remember the Binance Oga Patapata Tigram Gambarian? Yes. In don't come out talk say the reason why make it be say Joe Biden no greasy our president Tinubu last year when he go the event, and the reason why make Trump feel no even bother to see Oga Tinubu, perhaps now what's making no one go by himself. He sent Shetima saying that because of one matter, he revealed the secret. Really? Is that even possible? We'll talk about that issue. Lawmakers aid Yilcon bags 8-year jail term over 120 million naira job scam. That one said day, and we'll look into him. So Ludo's performances makes him unfit for re-election. CBN reduces monetary policy rate, that is interest rate, to 27%. Osun Borno lead CVR registration as INEC releases week 5 details. Osun Borno Lagos, by the way, now in the lead registration. Okay, I tell you, say earlier today, say they can't use tear gas also disperse Natasha supporters as then follow her come inside National Assembly. No visa for corrupt Nigerian officials. US mission 9 don't talk this one. Delays will leave Nigeria behind in digital trade. Deputy Speaker don't want Nigeria. And then we move on to other issues very quickly. Alleged money laundering. Judge transfers EFCC's case against ex-NNPCL GMD Mele Kyari for reassignment. Uber move alleged exploitation. Drivers go on indefinite strike. Move now one of the affordable car hailing services we visit and get. I think for Lagos State, I can't remember. Governor Rada promises special scholarship for indigenes who memorize Quran. If you sabi memorize Quran, we will give you special scholarship. And I'm sure you're wondering what is going on here. Okay, so let's go to other issues. Speaker Tajuddin Abbas task African nations on job creation, financial management. All of this and more matter than now we get as our First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, Madam, she don't make 20.45 billion naira for the contribution which is many people contribute for National Library. You understand that? Very good, way of making money. Pregnant woman killed, 18 abducted, cattle stolen as terrorists launch fresh attacks on Kwara communities. And not just that, Niger State Technical College in ruins as students cook on stones amid years of neglect. If you see the picture of the school, Oh, goodness, I'm so sorry. So sorry. I had an internet downtime. Please bear with me. I'm trying to see if I can. I'm so sorry. Goodness. Um,
Goodness.
I don't know if it's when haywire.
Can you
I
still
can
hear
hear
me?
you.
When haywire. I can hear
Sir.
you.
Sincere apologies.
Can you, sir? Sincere apologies.
All right, sir. Let me quickly run through the headlines I
All
have.
right,
I
sir.
said,
Let me quickly run through
Natasha
the
finally
headlines I
reports to
have. I
Senate
said,
after European National
Natasha
Assembly,
finally reports to
and then
Senate
Natasha
after
in court
the National
accuses government
Assembly,
of double
and
standards
then
in
Natasha in
prosecution and
court
abuse
accuses
information
government
and
of double
mediation against
standards in
her.
prosecution and abuse
Meanwhile,
of
the federal
information and
government is
mediation
also
against
saying
her.
that she's trying
Meanwhile,
to
federal government is also saying
scuttle
that
her
she's trying
trial,
to scuttle her
and then
trial.
she says, "Fabio not
And
more
then
senator than I
she
am."
says,
That's what
Fabio
she
not
said.
more senator than
And
I
the
am. That's
Former
what she
Binance
said.
boss that was
And
arrested
the
in Nigeria said
Former
that
Binance boss that was arrested
he
in
gave a
Nigeria
reason
said
why
that
Joe Biden and Trump
he gave
is
the
not willing to
reason
see
why
Tinubu,
Joe
and that's
Biden
very
and Trump
worrisome, really.
is not willing to
But
see
moving on
Tinubu.
to
And
other
that's very
issues, we hear that the
worrisome,
lawmaker
really.
state will
But moving on to other
convert
issues, we hear
8-year
that the
jail term
lawmaker state
over
will
120 million naira
convert
job scam.
8-year jail term
And
over
Tinubu's
120 million
performance
naira job
making
scam.
unfit for re-election.
And Tinubu's performance
CBN
makes him
reduces
unfit
monetary
for
policy,
re-election.
interest rate
CBN
27%.
reduces monetary
Oshun
policy,
Gronu
interest rate
lead
to
CVR
27%.
registration as
Ocean
INEC
Ground
releases week
lead CVR
5
registration at INEC releases week 5 details.
moving on now. No
Moving on
visa for
now,
corrupt
no visa
officials
for
said.
corrupt Nigerian
But the
officials,
next move
US
faster.
nation says.
As Nigeria toying with
But the
crisis,
next move
IPOB
faster,
wants
as
Tinubu
Nigeria toying
TSS
with
over
crisis,
Kano's
IPOB wants
deteriorating health.
Tinubu TSS
Niger
over
State
Kano's
Technical College in
deteriorating
Rings
health.
as students could
Niger State Technical College in Rings
years
as
of
students
neglect.
could
And I do tell you that
years
the
of
pregnant woman was
neglect.
abducted,
And I do tell you that the pregnant one was
in Kwara
abducted,
State with others,
and in
they did
Kwara
away
State
with.
with others, they did
2027
away
rep has
with.
urged Atiku Obi to step down
2027,
for
Red has
Tinubu.
urged
Well, all of these
Atiku
and other
Obi to
issues
step
we'll be
down
looking
for
at.
Tinubu. Well, all of
Adon
these and
also
other
talks to
issues we'll
our
be
first
looking
lady
at.
don't raise money.
I
That is
also
about
talk to our first lady
can you
don't
hear
use
me?
money.
You
That is
sound like
about.
you're worried
Can
about
you
my
hear
sound.
me? You
Yes.
sound like you're
All right,
worried about
please,
my
if you can't
sound.
hear me, kindly let me
No,
know.
I'm telling you.
All right.
All right, please. If you can't hear me, kindly let
This
me
no
know.
audio.
All right.
You are not audible.
This no audio.
I'm hearing
You are
you
not
loudly.
audible.
I'm hearing you loudly. I'm
Oh
hearing
dear.
you loudly.
All right.
Yes.
I do not know why I
Oh
may
dear.
not have an
All right.
audio,
I
but
do
let
not
me
know why I
see.
may not have an audio, but let me see.
I don't know.
I'm
Okay.
hearing you.
All right.
Can
Yes,
you
I
hear
can.
me?
I don't know.
Yes,
Can
I
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you.
All right. Yes, I can.
Very well.
Yes, I can hear
Very
you.
well.
Go ahead.
All right, sir.
Very well.
Let me quickly
Very
start
well.
with
All right,
Natasha's
sir. Let
incident,
me quickly
and
start
let me start
with
explaining
Natasha's
a bit of
incident,
what happened
and
today
let me start explaining
in
a bit
her
of what
case,
happened
and
today
then we get back
in
to
her case, and then we get
your
back
analysis on it.
to your analysis on it.
My
I can't
deepest
do that.
appreciation to the good people of Kogi Central,
I
Kogi
can't
State, and
do
Nigeria
that.
at large. My
People
husband,
of
my
Kogi
Lord
Central,
Jesus
Kogi
says, I
State,
love
and
you
Nigeria
dearly.
at large.
He said, I pray all
My
men
husband, my
support
Lord,
their
he
wives
said
as
this, I
much
love
as
you
you have
dearly.
supported
He
me.
said, I pray all
And my
men
children, thank you
support
for your
their wives as much
sacrifices.
as you have supported me.
In
And my
everything, it
children,
just
thank you for
shows
your
that sometimes
sacrifices.
it's
So,
good to put the institutions
in
to
everything, it just
test.
shows that sometimes
We
it's
can't
good to
cow
push
down in the face of
institutions
injustice.
to test.
No one is more
You
Nigerian than
can't
us.
cow down in the face of
Senator
injustice.
Fabio is
No
not
one
more
is
of a
more
senator than
Nigerian
I
than
am.
us. Senator Fabio is
He's
not
not
more
the
of a
governor
senator
of
than I
this
am.
place. And he treated me. He
He's
treated
not
me
the
as if I
governor
was
of this place. And he
was
treated
his
me.
servant or
He
I was a
treated me as if
domestic
I was
staff in
his,
his house.
I was his servant, or I
It's
was a
very
domestic
unfortunate
staff in his
that
house.
at this time, after so many years of
It's very
democracy, we would
unfortunate
have
that at this time, after
a
so
National
many years
Assembly
of
being run
democracy, we
by
would
such
have
dictatorship. It's totally
a national assembly
unacceptable.
being
As for
run by
me,
such
I'm
dictatorship.
glad to be
It's
here.
totally
And
unacceptable.
even though we
As for
have
me,
been illegally
I'm glad to be
suspended,
here,
no day
and even
have
though we
I
have been
hesitated in
illegally suspended,
effectively
no
carrying out my
day
duties
have
as
I
a senator
hesitated
of Kogi
in
Central to the very
effectively
best of my
carrying out
ability.
my duties as a
I
senator
have never,
of Kogi Central to the
no
very best
day
of my
went by
capacity.
without me looking
I
out
have
for
never,
opportunities,
no day
either in
went
terms
by
of
without me looking
bringing
out
infrastructure
for
or projects to
opportunities,
my people, and
either
even
in
jobs
terms
wherever
of
I could,
bringing
because I didn't
infrastructure
want
or
them to
projects
suffer,
to my people, and even
the
jobs
neglect
wherever I
and the
could,
vacuum that was
because I
created
didn't
by
want them
this
to suffer,
injustice. So I
the
thank people
neglect
like
and
Auntie
the
Obi
vacuum that was created by
Ezekwesili,
this
Sister
injustice. So I
Aisha,
thank people like
Mama
Auntie Obi
P,
Ezekwesili,
Peter the
Sister
Rod, and many
Aisha,
others,
Mama
Dr.
P,
Viola,
Peter Reward,
Yemi of
and
Enough is
many
Enough,
others,
Uncle
Dr.
Femi Falana. I
Viola,
mean, men and Nigerians I can't
Yemi
even
of
call.
Enough
I
is
mean,
Enough,
I've read your
Uncle
post.
Femi Falana, and many Nigerians I can't even
Sometimes
call.
it's
I mean,
good
I've
to put
read.
the institutions to test. We can't cow down in the face of injustice. No one is more Nigerian than us. Senator Fabio is not more of a senator than I am. He's not a governor of this place. And he treated me He treated me as if I was his servant, or I was a domestic staff. Appreciation to the good people of Kogi Central, Kogi State, and Nigeria at large. My husband, my love, if you see this, I love you dearly. In short, I pray all men support their wives as much as you have supported me.
Unfortunately,
and my children,
sir,
thank you
my
for your
network has
sacrifices.
decided
So,
to, I don't understand
in
what's going
everything,
on
it
this
just shows
evening.
that sometimes it's good to
I've tried to
be
put
with
up
two
two
I've tried to
different
put up two different
We can't cow down.
it's giving me problem. But let's get
problem.
straight to
But let's get straight
this
to
Natasha's incident. What does it
Natasha's
mean, sir?
incident. What does it mean, sir?
The fact that she cannot
The
access her
fact that she
office
cannot
phone,
access her office
even
phone,
though she was
even
initially
though she was
denied
initially
access to the office.
denied
What does it
access
mean
to
for
the office. What does
democracy,
it
sir?
mean for democracy, sir?
Yes, thank you. Natasha's case has shown to be one unfortunate incident threatening democracy in Nigeria, and especially within the National Assembly that is claimed to be the beacon of democracy. Is presented as the signpost, if you like, of democracy and the line democratic institution in this country. So it's unfortunate to see what has happened in National Assembly. It's unfortunate indeed to have the leadership of the National Assembly behave in the manner that they had behaved, especially towards the elected senator, Senator Natasha, in the National Assembly, particularly the Senate. So for me, we had said this earlier, and I would continue to say, the decisions of our courts and the provisions of our constitution have continually been disregarded, disrespected, largely by politically exposed persons and even holders of political offices in Nigeria. And that can only happen in a society where indeed the rule of law has been denigrated, and then in a way that the people even seem to be helpless. Excuse me. Now, what's the issue here? Natasha was elected a senator by his constituents to represent them in the Senate. She wasn't elected by the people of Akwa Ibom State or River State or any other state. So the people of our constituency are entitled to representation in the Senate at all times. And that has been so explained by the courts, including the latest decision of the Federal High Court by Justice Nyako, to the extent that the suspension, purported suspension of Senator Natasha has been held to be unconstitutional and unlawful, just like the situation in River State that was unconstitutional but was allowed to fester. The same way the suspension of Natasha, Senator Natasha, that is unconstitutional and unlawful, and an abuse of even the respect that the Senate of the National Assembly had actually been given all these years. So despite the decision of the court, the Senate had held on, even on the pretense of appeal. But in law, we have always said that appeals in themselves cannot act as stay, and appeals in themselves until so decided, and if the decision of the trial court or the lower court has been obtained rather, then that decision remains valid. So Natasha, for me, remained a senator, and the constitution is very clear as to how a senator will cease to be a senator. It is either that senator is recalled following the procedure of the constitution, or the senator dies, or the senator resigns, or the senator assumes and accepts a federal appointment, an executive appointment, I mean. Because other than these ways, then a senator elected into the Senate, the legislative house, shall remain a senator until the end of the tenure of that house, because it's a collective tenure. So I am not aware of anywhere, any provision in the Constitution that the senator can cease to be a senator for any moment, whether you call it suspension or for a period or in perpetuity until the end of the term of that Senate. So for me, the idea of suspension of the legislator is not just unconstitutional and unlawful, but unattainable, because you cannot deny the people of that constituency representation, and they have not decided that another person should represent them. So unfortunately, to the legislature, you can't do anything to the legislator that has been enacted and has been appointed. The only thing you do is within the powers in that legislative house, either to deny the person to be a member of a committee or to hold a position in the committee or some privileges, but not the fundamental representation of the people of that constituency, and then not also to deny that constituency their contribution to lawmaking. The primary responsibility of the National Assembly under our Constitution, Section 4 of that Constitution, is to make laws. It is not to be in committees or to enjoy other privileges. So that primary responsibility shall not be denied a representative of a constituency and of the people of this country, whatever constituency that would be. And that, I think, was the spirit behind the interpretation and the decisions of the court, that suspending a legislator is unconstitutional and unlawful. But the Senate President and the leadership of the Senate and the entire Senate had continued in that impunity and that disregard and disrespect of the provisions of the Constitution and the decisions of the court. In fact, it's contemptuous. The leadership of the National Assembly had actually fallen in contempt of the decision of the court. So it's welcoming to hear now that they have realized that the office of the senator that was sealed should be opened, and then with the expectation that as the Senate resumed in October, that the senator would also join in performing her primary constitutional legislative responsibility of lawmaking. Like I said, I am not that deeply concerned about whether she holds on to her position of the chairman of the Senate Committee on the Diaspora and the NGOs.
And the local
so even if
she's
she's been denied that, that is not the primary responsibility of a legislator that has gone to the legislative house for the purpose of making laws for the interest and benefit of Nigeria, and then to represent her constituency. So if the Senate leadership chooses to deny her any opportunity to be in any committee, but at least she should be allowed to access the Senate, access her office, and then present in lawmaking and determining how public funds are actually appropriated and expropriated in this country. Because those are the core responsibilities of the legislature, to make laws and to control public funds, to oversight public funds. She shouldn't be denied those responsibilities, and her people should not be denied the benefit of her presence in the National Assembly to make laws.
All right, sir. So the reason I asked you this question is because of, say, yesterday, I don't know whether you see they hear me. We get a guest here yesterday. For when the guest come yesterday. All right, sir. So the reason I asked you this question is because of, say, yesterday, I don't know whether you see they hear me. We get a guest here yesterday. For when the guest is normal. Because I did ask you yesterday, why will a senator be elected and his case is in dispute? I asked a question about in court, or his election is in dispute in court, and his suspension. But then on the outcome of our case, and he said it's normal. Because I did ask that question, that why will a senator be elected and his case is in dispute? You understand, in court, or his election is in dispute in court, and he's still resuming the letter that the Senate said he have made.
You see, I wouldn't take on the individual. He's entitled to his opinion and his interpretation of the Constitution, and then the legal issues around this suspension. But in my view, I didn't think that was normal. There was nothing normal in the suspension of a legislator, whether in the State House of Assembly as it was in Rivers State, where there was a purported suspension of some members of the House of Assembly. There is nothing normal about it. The Constitution is clear, like I stated. Like Senator Natasha said, it was right, that no senator is more of a senator than the other, not even the Senate President. The Senate President is not more of a senator than the others. It is the other senators that elected him the Senate President. In fact, there is no provision as to special about the Senate presidency. It is provided in the Constitution to the extent that it is upon the convening of the Senate, declaration of a new Senate, that the senators themselves, who were equally elected to represent their constituencies, and in case of the Senate, the constituencies are even equal. No one is superior or bigger than the other. Every state has 3 senatorial districts. Every state. So even Akwa Ibom State has 3, not 4. So the Senate President himself represents a constituency. If the Senate President was anything different from other senators, maybe when he emerged as the Senate President, another person would have been elected to represent his constituency in Akwa Ibom State. But even as it stands, the Senate President primarily is representing a constituency in Akwa Ibom State. So it didn't change the situation in Akwa Ibom State that there are only 3 senators. There are no 4 senators. So that tells you that even the Senate President is like other senators. But for the purpose of leadership of the Senate, for the purpose of presiding over the proceedings of the Senate, and for the fact that the office of the Senate President is a creation of the Constitution, and the procedure to electing a Senate President is that the senators will themselves elect a Senate President for themselves, like the members of a House of Assembly will elect a Speaker for themselves from within the House of Assembly or within the Senate. So there are no more than 109 senators in the Senate. So Senator Akpabio should have been guided with his conduct and the powers that are vested in him, the powers vested in the Senate President, not the powers of oppression or to seemingly oppress any senator in that regard. But the special privileges he has to preside over the proceedings of the Senate are mere privileges. It can be taken away from him even as we speak in this moment, that on the 7th or whatever date in October when they resume, he could be surprised, and it will be shocking to anyone that the senators will just come together and say, look, it's enough of your leadership of this house, and elect for themselves another Senate President. Nothing will happen. So for me, there's nothing really completely normal in the actions of the suspension of Senator Natasha, because the courts have held that such action by a legislative house would be unconstitutional and unlawful and illegal. Even if the courts have been invited, I think the courts appropriately for me were invited to mandate the Senate to allow the senator to go back to office and continue our constitutional functions. Not that it is the courts that will make Senator Natasha to continue to perform her functions. So I think that we need to be serious in this country with our democracy and our rule of law. We need to be serious with the supremacy of the Constitution, not the supremacy of individuals, not the discretion or arbitrariness of individuals. It is only the predominance and the supremacy of the law, the Constitution, and decisions of court that means the rule of law. The rule of law is alien to the supremacy of arbitrariness and the supremacy of individuals or any authority in that regard.
All right, sir. I don't know whether you still hear me.
I don't know whether you still hear me. Can you hear me? Because
it's unfortunate that I'm
having this.
Can you still hear me, sir?
Can you still hear me, sir? Can you hear me?
Excellently, I'm hearing you.
Sorry, sir.
Sorry, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
just because almost trying to sort out this sound issue.
Can you still hear me, sir?
Can you still hear me, sir? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you very clearly.
You can hear
You
me.
can hear me clearly.
Very
You
clearly.
can hear me clearly. That's fine.
I don't know what I can do.
Okay.
So,
look at this. The case they caught
two different federal high courts and
the Federal High Court and
the same matter of the defamation, will the acts and all that. Now, we don't allege double standard. Federal government also allege make them even bring in our own case, saying that the authorities selecting justice, alleging that by the complaint about the same institution, but again, what it means on this kind of case. Remember that situation with the IGP when they were setting and like and all that, and they didn't do anything about it. So they were quick to take out the Attorney General took out on behalf of all of these things. All of these things we need to the ordinary person with the government of the
first, let me state this, and I imagine that it will be instructive moving forward in this country. That it shouldn't be every matter or any dispute or difference that should come through litigation for resolution in the courts. Where have we kept the institution of the open courts or the open, the alternative dispute resolution mechanism of process or judicial process, really? That some of these differences should have been subjected or rather directed to such mechanisms where we believe that would have been expedited, and then we believe that a win-win situation would have been the outcome, so that back to the Senate, all senators and their colleagues, Senator Natasha, will have cordial relationship in carrying out their responsibilities moving forward. But as it has degenerated now, one wonders what relationship is going to be between Natasha and her colleagues, especially those who are seeing things from the eyes of the Senate President and then also in support of the Senate President. So the open door courts house, or that kind of arrangement, that institution should be domesticated in the National Assembly, so that where they were elected, we elected them to go make laws for good government and then for the welfare and benefit of their constituents, and then by some extension to the country, not to have issues that will be so seriously contended that will lead to litigation. Then to your view, the issues of double standard and the perception that Natasha would have had, the way her matter has been handled and she's been treated, I think fair enough to Natasha, and then to I think that and then the legal issues have been raised, especially the courts now intervening and making the decisions that the courts have made, despite the disrespect, and then the subsisting, I would say, the appeal that is sub judice before the Court of Appeal. That's why even in my discussion, I'm a bit careful not to go into the merits or otherwise of the issues that have been raised, which are now for the Court of Appeal. I believe that the appeals are subsisting as the matter is sub judice. So to that extent, I would say that we should learn lessons, and then we should, in moving forward, have solutions to some of this kind of unnecessary and avoidable crisis and disputes, really. The matter that has led to this should be a trivial one, even if it is fundamental, the issue of arrangement of seats in the Senate. But it's not a fundamental matter that is a legislative house should take so seriously that a senator will be suspended for a whooping period of 6 months out of a tenure of 4 years, and then denying the representative. That's the philosophy, that's the principle, the legal principle behind the decisions that the courts have. Denying the constituents of this nation. And for 6 months, what a punishment, undeserving punishment to the people, not even to the senator, because she refused to accept certain allocation of seats. That's too trivial. That's a mediation process should have been able to resolve. And if the National Assembly does not have that kind of institution or mechanism, then I think moving forward, we should think about instituting or domesticating that arrangement, that structure, that institution or system of dispute resolution other than litigation. And then such if you like, crass punishment that the institution you belong as a member is disappointing. As a senator yourself, your primary family being so hard in discipline, and especially even the issues that surrounded the unfair procedure or approach that ended up with this punishment of suspension in the Senate. They are still fresh in our memories, where even some of the senators had actually made the pronouncement they had made even before the hearings. All of these for me were rather persecutory. It wasn't fair enough at all, Precious.
Thank you. But because of time and the technical difficulty, let's make an always I just go into one of the major issues. Yes, I'd like to discuss Sowore and Wike. I don't know whether you don't hear the gist that happen between them. It is long, but make I just summarize small for you. Sowore and Wike, they get issue. Sowore say Wike they very corrupt. In fact, today even posted a video of the Days Hotel, the inside hotel, in a hotel where this Wike used money, one of these bills, one of the democracy that is going to say, Sowore right to and ask them to make, extradite the minister of FCT. Why you go feed by up to 3 to 4 properties? Wait be the possibility for a serving minister for Nigeria to face prosecution money laundering cases? The fact that they buy houses, even though the houses here only pay few million, does it matter? Even though they buy that in Florida for you to buy that kind of property in Florida. But then is it possible that he be extradited? We like to hear your opinion. And then take us through what the legal process is, if that is what happened.
Precious had read much of that story on the media and followed some of the issues that are unfolding. Clearly, for me as a lawyer, I've identified some issues of concern, legal issues of concern, and again, very disturbing ones at that a minister of the Federal Republic is a public servant, and by the definition of public servants in our constitution. And again, a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is guided by the laws of this country, including the Money Laundering Act, Prohibition Act, Money Laundering Prohibition Act, including the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Establishment Act, including the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Offenses Related Offenses Commission Act, and again, including the Criminal Code Act. Now, members of the Federal Cabinet are not immune. They do not have immunity. So, again, citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria are entitled to watch on public office holders, public servants, and raise issues they consider and perceive constitute infractions of our laws, our domestic laws. I'm dealing with our Nigerian laws before we talk about the foreign laws because the property referred to here are domiciled in the United States of America. But you see, these legislations I have referenced here, unfortunately, and the institutions established under those legislations, I mean the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Commission, the ICPC that everybody hears about, deals with public servants and corrupt practices. But that institution is here and the law is here. That's one. Two, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is an establishment created, an institution established under the Establishing Acts, and having a duty, a statutory duty, to question public office holders or any individual, any citizen, with respect or with regards to unjust enrichment. I know where I'm going. Public servants have their remuneration and allowances known to these institutions. And you find a minister or any public servant displaying wealth in such a manner or at such magnitude that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission cannot interrogate or investigate and call on such individuals to justify their enrichment, which the law enables the commission to do, then I think we should have questions about those commissions and those institutions and the legal frameworks themselves. Now, until a citizen acting as a watchdog has raised this issue in a foreign land and calling on a foreign government to apply their own law against a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria who is a serving member of the cabinet and a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The question now is that call justified? And I dare say, yes, it's justified. Every citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that holds public office must be accountable at all times. If you're called upon to account to the people, you should consider it a duty to so do, to account to the people. Unfortunately, this matter has even exposed the Honorable Justice Suzette Nyesom Wike, a justice of the Court of Appeal. I respect the Honorable Justice Suzette Nyesom Wike from the High Court of Rivers State and now elevated to the Court of Appeal. Also, another public office holder and a public servant, a judicial officer, again held to be accountable on this very disturbing and exposing issue. For me, it's a difficult period for the Nyesom Wike's family. Both the minister and the justice of the Court of Appeal, not even to mention their children. They have a responsibility to account for the money that has been reported to have been expropriated or used for the acquisition of the property in the United States of America. Because these are public office holders, and it came within the period that they are holding public offices. Their supporters will question the rationale of this flag that has been raised, so to speak, against their principles. But they should be told that indeed these are public office holders that owe a duty to defend themselves, to justify their enrichment, to justify this fund rather, that the accusers have attributed to the public funds that has been diverted or laundered against the Money Laundering Prohibition Act. So it is the responsibility of the minister and the justice to justify the enrichment and to exonerate themselves from that allegation of money laundering. It is that responsibility. They are not immune, they are not above the law, and they cannot be excused just by the comments of condemnation of their supporters against Omoyele Sowore, yeah, simply. And then, of course, any other person who may have petitioned the Honorable Attorney General of Florida. So for me, it's a trying moment for the family, and then they have a responsibility to answer to those questions that have been raised. They are public office holders in Nigeria, and then they are also answerable to the laws of the United States, particularly the laws of Florida, and then to exculpate themselves of every allegation of money laundering and associated offenses, both in Nigeria and in the United States.
All right, sir. So let's speak about Nigeria first of all before we reach there. I'll be making my question very brief because of my poor audio. It's really very troubling that this is happening on a day that we have this very important conversation. But very quickly, speaking to this, waiting be the laws of Nigeria, waiting be the laws where they guide legal practitioners of her status for Nigeria based on this kind of thing. Waiting the law for Nigeria. Talk. You can't hear me.
All right, so let's speak about, first of all, I'm making my question because for you, very quickly speaking to this, within the law.
Oh dear. Can you hear me now, sir? Can you hear me? This is my village people, they will not succeed today. Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me, sir?
Oh dear. Can you hear me now, sir?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
It's troubling. I'm so sorry. Okay, so what's in the Nigerian law?
They will not succeed today.
Illegal,
can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you, Precious.
Can you hear me,
and
sir?
also
Yes.
owning properties in the US.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Oh dear.
I'm sorry.
You're struggling. I'm so sorry. Okay, so what does the Nigerian work as being in, but also owning properties in the US?
Sorry, I didn't get it. Is this one that I didn't get? You're now beginning to really it's fluctuating. There's seriously a glitch.
Okay, let me try and
it's
see
breaking.
if I can get something better. All right, I did ask. I said, waiting be the place of the law, our law, for this kind of situation about our legal officers. Waiting our law for Nigeria talk about our legal officers working and being a US citizen of another country, owning property in another country, and also being a card-carrying member of another country. Waiting our law, they talk about them.
Pressure is not working. I can't hear you.
Waiting be the place of the law.
Okay.
Our law for this kind of about go law and all being
well, I think the part that I heard, it's the question as to what's the place of our law. Let us deal with our domestic laws, which I had spoken very elaborately about. The Money Laundering Prohibition Act is there. To prohibit money laundering and makes money laundering an offense and makes money not exempting ministers, or even judicial officers. Anybody that has been accused of infraction of any of the provisions of the Money Laundering Prohibition Act, it should be answerable. Have also the Economic and Financial Crimes Establishment Act that has also prohibited unjustified or unjust enrichment, such that people can be checked as to their display of wealth, and then juxtaposed side by side their legitimate earning. So the EFCC could investigate a person on this regard to justify that your earning is commensurate with what you are doing or you've done. And especially for public office holders, just that our institutions are so weak and afraid of politically exposed persons in such a way that I wonder whether the EFCC or the ICPC or even the police will take advantage of this whistle blowing action and investigate. But up till now, we have not heard any of these institutions say anything. And I don't imagine or expect that they will do anything, because one minister of the Federal Republic, who is considered even as a super minister, is involved here. Otherwise, if it were one Nigerian or one young student, the EFCC would have swung into serious action, even a sting operation, to get that young citizen arrested on allegation of maybe money laundering as well, or internet fraud, or any form of fraudulent behavior that the EFCC is empowered to investigate. They would have swung into action. Or if it were another public officer, not a politician, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission would have sworn into action, inviting such public officer, maybe a school principal or a civil servant, not being a politician. They would have invited that. So I expect the ICPC, the EFCC, and other agencies of government that were established to curb corruption to swing into action and engage in dispassionate and thorough investigation on these allegations with evidence that is shown. But let us verify the accused persons here are entitled to the constitutional guaranteed presumption of innocence, and of course the right to defend themselves. So that's the least I would expect. So we have sufficient laws back home to address these issues that have been raised, and even to and we have the relationship with the United States to exchange, if you like, citizens for the purpose of investigation and trials. So we have that relationship to repatriate or to rather extradite Nigerians or United States citizens across both countries for the purpose of answering to offenses committed either at home here or abroad in those countries. So this offense, this allegation, is one of an offense that was committed in the United States by Nigerians. And so the United States government, particularly the state of Florida, is invited here to investigate these allegations and dispassionately prosecute if found culpable. And I think back at home here, the Nigerian state ought to look back and say, a minister is serving minister, even if he is entitled to the presumption of innocence, but you should cause the agencies in this country to investigate, because the monies alleged to have been laundered are proceeds, which of course are proceeds of crime that were rather expended in the United States, but they are monies that originated from Nigeria. So the Money Laundering Prohibition Act and even the entire global fight against money laundering should be such that where the offense originally was committed and where the procedure of crime originated can also look into this matter. So the Nigerian institutions and agencies also have the competence to look at to investigate and look at the conduct of these public officers. I mean, the minister and then the justice of the Court of Appeal, and interrogates them on these matters and see the propriety in all of this, and perhaps whether to release them to the United States when they are called upon, especially if the state of Florida in the United States considers these petitions and establish a prima facie case against them and invite them to go over to the United States to answer to those allegations. I think the Nigerian state will have no choice but to release them to go to the United States to answer to those questions. I believe they will do so honorably without allowing the intervention of the international police, their Interpol, to effect those arrests if it gets to that point.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We have that request.
The trends
can be different.
What
if you want now, it's in our law.
It's in our law.
Whether judicial officer can be disciplined,
have dual citizenship.
Citizenship. Now, the question of citizenship in our country is such that you can be a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and hold citizenship of another country, but you are prohibited in certain regards, but not in all situations, really. You can do business, you can be a public servant in Nigeria, even when you are a citizen of Nigeria and a citizen of another country, especially when you have not renounced your Nigerian citizenship. So if you haven't renounced your Nigerian citizenship and you are a citizen of Nigeria, then you are entitled to hold office in Nigeria to the extent that the laws allow. So I'm not aware, and I do not think that it's a prohibition to being a judicial officer if you hold citizenship of another country. To the best of my knowledge, I'm not aware yet. What we say in law is that God forbids that a lawyer knows all the laws, but it should be a lawyer that will be able to get to the laws when the issues have come before him. So if you are confronted with a legal issue, you should be able to know where to find the law, but you mustn't know the law all the time and all the laws at all. So I do not know, and I am not sure that such regulation even exists amongst the code of conduct for judicial officers. I am not yet a judicial officer, so I do not know the code of conduct for judicial officers. But for the provisions of our constitution, for the appointment of a judicial officer, I am not sure that it's a disqualification yet, to the best of my knowledge, if you hold a citizenship of another country whilst you hold citizenship of Nigeria. That's dual citizenship you've asked, provided you have not renounced your Nigerian citizenship. It is when you renounce, meaning that you're no longer a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that it will be a question whether you can be a judicial officer or hold an office as judicial officer in Nigeria.
Okay, so how about
the case
judge and also what does the law say about that?
The laws that regulate political activities and political parties and membership of political parties in Nigeria is a combination of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Electoral Act. So the political parties that are known in Nigeria, known to the laws in Nigeria, are those that are registered with the Independent National Electoral Commission, which itself is an establishment of the Constitution. It's a creation of Section 153 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and further established by the Electoral Act. So if a political party is not mentioned as one of the parties registered by INEC here, then it's not known to law, to the Nigerian laws. And I'm afraid it is not a political party in Nigeria. So how would you enforce any question of law against a citizen of Nigeria that is a member of a political party abroad? And if that can affect its membership in Nigeria, even where a membership of a political party would have been a limitation or a disqualification of an appointment into that office. Take, for instance, if somebody is to be appointed into the Independent National Electoral Commission, where the laws in Nigeria would have prohibited that person or disqualified the person if he were a card carrying member, they would say, or a member of a political party in Nigeria, that they shouldn't be qualified for the appointment into that office pursuant to the Electoral Act, right? Or the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Such person cannot be disqualified if he's a member of a political party in another country, because it would have been an issue if it were a political party in Nigeria. So by that argument, by my submission, by extension, it will mean that even if a citizen or a judicial officer holds or is a member of a political party in the United States or in the United Kingdom, in Australia, or anywhere, even in an African country, it cannot be seen to influence that public office holder in the decision that the public office holder will hold where political parties or politicians are involved in Nigeria. So these are issues about how it will influence the decision of the judicial officer, perhaps to perverse justice, right? That, I think, would be the thought as to being a judicial officer and being a card-carrying member of a political party in Nigeria. So the simple question would have been, how is the membership of a judicial officer of a political party abroad influence the decision of that judicial officer if matters have come before the judicial officer that involve political parties in Nigeria? I don't think it will influence the judicial officer in any way. So by that extension and argument, I think that it shouldn't really be a serious concern.
All right, irrespective
of whether the
I don't think so. So whether the Nigerian is a British citizen and at the same time a Nigerian citizen, and then back there in Britain, he is a member of the Labour Party or the Conservative or any of the other smaller political parties, right, and holds a card there, but is appointed a judicial officer in Nigeria, then the concern is, if it's a judicial officer, so are matters of the Labour Party going to come before the judicial officer in Nigeria? No. So the matters that will come before the judicial officer in Nigeria will be matters of the political parties I stated earlier that would have been registered by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, I mean. So the matters that would have come before the judicial officer will be from PDP, APC, Labour Party here, even if it is the same name as Labour Party in the United Kingdom, but it's the different political party in the United Kingdom that is the Labour Party in Nigeria. So I don't think that argument would be anything really tenable.
All right, sir.
I'm so sorry. Sowore may just be wasting his time.
Who is wasting his time?
Sowore.
Yeah, whether Sowore is wasting his time with respect to the money laundering allegation case. No, it's not wasting his time. I think I've spoken elaborately on. It's not wasting it. I say any citizen can raise any issue. Okay, don't they raise issues about other citizens in Nigeria? Don't people even see, citizens should even watch public officers more than they would even watch people who are not holding public office. Citizens should be able to call out public officers when their conducts run in violation of the provisions of any of our laws. So if you find a public office holder who is exhibiting unjustified wealth, we have a responsibility, even back here in the country, to say this minister cannot justify his riches. But it's just unfortunate here that the institutions are not working. That's why a public office, a local government chairman, could be building a hotel, a 5-star hotel in Nigeria. Probably somebody who had never worked, or even if he has worked for 20 years, all his remuneration put together, even if he wasn't paying transport, he wasn't feeding from it, which is not real. A real situation would have been that that public office holder will be paying school fees of his children, he will pay transport to work, he will clothe himself, he will take charge of his medical bills, he will feed himself. So it cannot even be justified if his entire earnings for 20 years to be kept intact for him to execute a project that is commensurate to that earning for 20 years. It's not realistic. It can't be a real situation. But you will find a public office or a local government chairman who has never worked, some of whom we know. You are in the university, we all met there, and then you've come out, you've actually not done any job, but you got into politics and you elected a local government chairman, but you're building a 5-star hotel in the areas in the city that even the value of the land could run into hundreds of millions. But it's building, and then nobody will question. The EFCC will not even come into it on their own to say, hey, you are a public office holder as at the last count, or probably even still a public office holder, and you are building this, come and justify. And you're not denying ownership of the facility. So you can be invited to say, come and justify, just come and explain. But you know what? Let me tell you, Precious, and maybe this will even shock you again. Contractors who are still on site, as I speak to you right now in a matter that I'm involved, that I know, they are still on site, meaning that they have not even abandoned the project. They have not left site, but they are being invited by the EFCC to come and explain even monies that have been paid to them in milestones. That is the institution you have in this country. You are inviting contractors that are on site, still executing projects, to come and explain themselves. And they are leaving site, their project site, and coming to the EFCC, spending a whole 1 week explaining themselves how they bidded for the projects, how contracts were awarded to them, how monies were paid to them, and what they have done with the money. And they are showing proof of the projects and works they have done. That is okay. The EFCC is working, preventing diversion of public funds. Beautiful. But here, there are public office holders who are also...
Oh dear, we're not having this issue at all. It's been a crazy day, so I don't want to say or believe that my network is under attack or my system. A few things have happened the past couple of days that I'll share with you guys later on. I don't even know if you can hear me, but it's just been very crazy. It's been a crazy experience.